Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is mindset, and we're going to be discussing how to work with yourself. So not against yourself, but work with yourself. So, is there a behavior in your life that you would like to change? Maybe something you want to start doing as a regular habit, or maybe something you want to quit that has unfortunately become a regular habit. Okay? And there is that something, and maybe it's something you've known for a while. Maybe it's something you've tried over and over and over again to change, but you end up failing, unfortunately, over and over again. Now, think about this. What is getting in the way? Is what getting in the way, is that the same thing each time? So if every time you get the ball rolling, is there a same thing that always gets you off course? The same thing you always have to battle against? The same thing that kind of just becomes the obstacle? Okay? So, I want to share a little bit of story from my life and then a client's life that kind of brought this idea to mind. And I want to see if maybe you guys can use this to benefit your own life as well. So, for myself, when I started the gym, so I've had this gym now for 8 years, and when I started the gym, I'd always made up until that point, like, my training, like, I'd exercise pretty much every day. So, I've told everybody in the podcast before, is since I was 15 years old, which is 20 years, I've never missed more than 7 consecutive days of training, and I've only ever missed a week's worth, 7 days, twice in my entire life of 20 years. So I train pretty regularly, and I've had goals of training every day for a year, and I've done that for several years, either at different times in my life or in chunks of times. So I do love training, and it's something that was almost always kind of like, it's not even that it was an intentional priority every day, where I said everything else has to revolve around this. I would just happen to make it work every day. You know, so you see your schedule and say, oh, I got about an hour there. I'd probably get a little bit of workout then. And it was just something that it just naturally flowed for me to fit it into my life. Well, when I opened the gym and I signed my life away to a lot of people who wanted money from me every month, it became kind of like an, oh shit, I have to make all this money first. And so I started training 50 hours of clients a week. And that was what I needed to pay my bills. So with 50 hours of clients face-to-face, I then had all of their programming for nutrition and training that I was supposed to do outside of that time. And then I'd have the process of being a business owner. So you're the janitor, you're the accountant, you're the social media marketer, just everything. So it was very overwhelming at first, and I struggled with trying to get enough time to get my own workouts in. Now, I stayed with it, and I still trained 3 or 4 times a week, but the training was pretty much whenever the hell it would fit in. So that meant that the training was pretty shit. So sometimes I was fed, sometimes I wasn't. Sometimes I was hydrated, sometimes I wasn't. Sometimes I was, drank 2 Red Bulls back to back and still was falling asleep trying to get my workout in. But what I found was when I put my workouts last, my workout quality was garbage, absolutely garbage. And that coincided with a few injuries I had. Imagine that. So trying to train to your fullest potential and fullest expectations when you have absolutely none of the groundwork laid correctly. So I did get some injuries. So then I decided, okay, well, I can be unhealthy, work myself to death, and probably end up losing the gym due to poor health. Or I could set myself to be the highest priority, take care of my own health, and then run the gym, and it would survive, whether it did or didn't. So I was either going to lose the gym and lose my health, or I was going to keep my health and maybe lose the gym. So I'd much rather, be able to keep one of the two than lose both of them. So my training became the first thing. So I remember I told all of my clients, I pushed all of my clients back to 10 in the morning, and I got to the gym around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I trained myself every single day for 2 hours, and I was the first client of the day, so to speak. Now, that went well for a while. So I remember I did 30 days in a row of 2 hours every day, and counting Saturdays and Sundays and stuff. And I was able to correct a lot of the injury issues. So I basically spent 60 hours in a month on pure rehab. I didn't even lift anything decently heavy. It was just rehab, and I fixed everything. So I got my health back. Well, then my motivation for 2 hour workouts kind of waned. And, I kind of like slept in on some mornings because I felt like, maybe I needed sleep more than I needed the training. And then all of a sudden, like, I would get up in the morning, but I'd get up late and wouldn't get my breakfast in. And then you're trying to work out without any food and no energy. And again, the quality of my training kind of went to crap. But I realized that in all of my scenarios, like, no matter when I put my training, I was always good at showing up for my clients. So I was always motivated to get up out of bed if I had a client waiting there. If I was supposed to meet a client. I was always good at staying late at the gym if there was supposed to be a client. So again, I got into this business because I want to help people. That's why I like being a personal trainer, is you get a chance to help people and make a difference in their life. And I was more motivated, I found, by getting to train other people than I was to train myself. And that's kind of sad, like that I wouldn't take care of myself as much as I'd want to take care of somebody else. So that became something that once I realized, I was like, okay, so if I'm my first client, I'm more likely to sleep in, not eat right, and kind of miss the workout. But I could set myself up where I have a client that motivates me to get up out of bed, eat my food, show up to train the client. And then what do you know? I'm already at the gym. I would then be able to work out. So that's what I did. I learned to work with myself. So I knew my habits were to put myself second. Okay? And I would put other people before myself. And I recognized that that was going to happen. I was either going to train myself after everybody in the very end of the day, and it'd be total shit. Or if I tried to put myself first, it just wasn't motivating enough and it wouldn't go to shit. So I found out that the consistent thing, what was I consistent at? I was consistent at showing up for someone else. So I learned, like I said, to work with myself. So I kind of self-sabotaged my lazy self. So now my schedule is I wake up, I eat and drink some food while I listen to a podcast, and while I'm, brushing teeth and getting ready for the day. I then come to the gym and make a podcast because I actually find these very motivational and they're fun to do. Kind of excites me for the rest of the day. And then I train a client. Then I have a 3-hour block where I get to do whatever I want to do, which is designated for my training. So usually after the client leaves, I take about 20-30 minutes to kind of, answer some text, emails, maybe get a drink or something, more food in me, and just kind of get my mind ready. And then I'll go train myself for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then I have about a half hour to kind of calm down, get my body calmed down and rested, and then I go into training everybody else for the day. So I found out how to work with myself was to set up that I had one client early in the morning that would motivate me to get up out of bed and get to the gym. I'd train that client, and then that wouldn't take a ton of energy away from me. It actually motivated me to get up and have food. So now all of a sudden I have all the energy and I'm already at the gym, so boom, I get my workout in. Okay? So that's how I learned to work with myself. Now, that is quite fortunate that I get the chance to make my own schedule. And I took a lot of years to earn that. But that the fact that I get to do that means that I better damn well take advantage of it, because that's a gift not a lot of people have. So I'm learning that now, that just because I have it and other people don't, doesn't mean I have to feel guilty or feel bad about it. So since I have it, I might as well use it, and use it for my benefit. Okay? Now, I have another client who they were kind of wrestling with something along the lines of trying to learn how to work with themselves. And they found that their motivation to eat well and to exercise was highly external. So they had used internal motivation, like doing it just for themselves, earlier in their life, but it kind of faded away. And it's always been hit and miss, and they've always kind of cycled through, kind of taking care of themselves, kind of not, kind of giving a shit, kind of not. So sometimes when they're fired up and they'd want to do it, they would do it. But then other times you're like, you know what, I'd rather just, sit and veg out and watch TV or read a book or, eat some fun food with the family, just kind of relax, rather than go train or exercise. Okay? Or even to eat correctly. So they said that they would always feel bad about needing external motivation, like needing the approval of others, or needing like a work challenge or a friendship challenge among friends, for fitness, or they'd always have to be motivated to try to like do something in their life so that way they could get someone, a friend or a loved one to take care of their health too. So they would always have to do it for someone else or something else, and they would always feel kind of guilty about it. And they said, I should be able to do it for me. So just do it. I should be able to just do it for me, but I can't. It seems like I need to have someone or something else external to motivate me. And they would realize that every time they would feel guilty about the external, and they would try to remove the external and go back to just an internal motivation, it would last for a short period of time, they'd falter and fall off. Then all of a sudden a new external thing would come up, and then all of a sudden they'd be back on the horse, and they'd be doing really well. Then all of a sudden they'd feel guilty again about it was being motivated only by external, and they would try to do the internal thing, and again it would fail. So they had found out that what worked for them was external motivation, but they felt guilty about it because of what society and what all these book gurus and people like me even talk about is you should be internally motivated to take care of yourself. True, and if you can, that's great, and if that's something you should work towards kind of developing in your life, but if it's not the only type of motivation. So we've done podcasts in the past about motivation, actually explicitly about internal versus external motivation, and we said that it's a good thing to use all the motivation you can. So if you don't have internal, that's fine, use external. Do whatever the hell you gotta do to get things going. So that's what this client found out is we were having the conversation, and they said for years they felt guilty about that they needed external motivation. And for years they could see themselves fall off and on, with their diet and exercise. So finally we said to them was, well, you know it, embrace it, and use it. Okay? So they decided what would help them, motivate them, was to be financially committed. So they paid over $1,000 of personal training ahead of time, which I discourage a lot because I hate taking people's money before I have the chance to earn it. And also you don't know what's coming up in the world. So basically I cashed that check, and not sure if she's going to listen to this podcast or not, but I cashed that check, but I put it in a different account because if, like, say something happened where, we only got 3 or 4 sessions in, then something happened in their life where they couldn't come in for the sessions, there's no way in hell I'm keeping that $1,000 when I didn't earn it. So I kind of segmented that thing away. But the motivation for them now is going to be that they know they paid ahead, and they definitely don't want to have to ask for that money back. So that's going to be their motivation, is they know it's paid for, they know I'm standing there waiting to train them, so now the external motivation is I shouldn't throw my money away. I paid all that money, I gotta show up so I don't waste that damn money. I work hard for my money, my family needs money. If I just dismiss this money and I disrespect this money, then I'm not doing a good thing for myself and for my family. So they'll show up to the sessions for that. Then there's the belief that I'm standing here waiting for them. So I'm standing here waiting for them and ready for them to come, and anytime they text me and say they can't come, it's a disappointment. It's a disappointment to me because I had a freaking workout ready to go and I was excited to meet them. And it's a disappointment because I know we're going to fall behind in our goals. And the next time they come in, they're going to be one step unhappy compared to we could have been one step happier. So it's definitely a disappointment when people cancel. So they would have had a financial commitment now, and they have the accountability commitment. So those are external commitments that are going to help force them to do the things that they want to do in the grand scheme of things, but in the temporary moments sometimes don't want to do. Okay? So oftentimes people pay for personal training not only for the educational aspect of what to do, but also because they need the accountability. So they need the financial accountability, or they need the personal accountability, knowing that now there's somebody standing there waiting for them. There's somebody that expects them to be there. Okay? So I've had clients for 5 to 10 years. I've had clients longer than I've had this gym that I still work with, and they absolutely know how to train themselves. All my clients know what they're doing. We do education along with training, so they know how to train themselves. But they have busy, demanding lives, and they want that accountability, either financial or personal accountability of me standing here, because without that, the busyness and the craziness of their life will take over, and it'll steal their health away from them. Okay? So sometimes they might know what to do, but they're still going to pay for personal training because they want the accountability. And that is what they've learned how to work with themselves. They know what they need to get them to do what they want to have done. Okay? Whether society says that's a good thing or anybody else says it's a good thing, who gives a shit? if it gets you moving in a positive direction in your life, use it. Okay? Embrace it, use it, get it moving. Okay? So, like myself, like having to schedule a client to my first of the day, so it motivates me to get my butt up and out of bed into the gym. And like the client who paid ahead of time for their training, which motivates them to show up to the training. Okay? What is, that's what we want to get out of this podcast is, in my example, in my client's example, we've learned what we have to do to work with ourselves. We know where we usually falter. We've found a cheat code for that, and we found a way to kind of prevent that faltering and kind of get us to do the right thing, even if temporarily we don't want to do it every now and then. Okay? So think in your life, what's that thing, that same damn thing, that keeps coming up and keeps holding you back? Okay? And is there a way you can work with it? Stop fighting it. Stop expecting it to change. If it hasn't changed yet, it probably ain't going to change now. Now, the key here is we want to use whatever gets us started, gets it to become habitual, and then over time you can make some small corrections. So if you know, and society says, and books says, and blah, 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 the smart things of psychology say that we should have some internal motivation. But if you don't have it now, don't rely on it to get started. Start through the external. Get habitual with the behaviors. And then maybe later internal will develop. But at least in the meantime, you're going to make forward steps in your life. You're going to take care of your health. If you wait for that damn internal thing to develop before you ever start, you're never going to start. You haven't started yet, why the hell would you start then? Okay? Just get started. Get moving. Do anything you need to work with yourself. Stop beating yourself up for things that you wish were different. Work with what you have now to make things different in the future. Okay? So, there's a concept that I like that's along these same lines, pretty much the same thing, but it's called self-sabotaging. Okay? And what it is basically you're setting up traps for your lazy self. So, I had a really neat example just this past weekend. My phone died last week. That's the phone I use for business and personal and everything, so that was like, talk about a no shit moment. But basically my phone died, and what ended up happening with it was the back screen, the backlight died. So the phone was fully functional and it was doing its own things when you click on it, but you couldn't tell what the hell was happening because you couldn't see the screen. So I went to Verizon. I hate Verizon, by the way, but I went to Verizon, and I got, apparently my phone was still under warranty. Imagine that, a warranty actually works. And they sent me a new phone, and they said to put my old phone in the box that they sent the new phone in and send the old phone back to them. Well, since I couldn't see the light of anything, I couldn't really turn off the phone. So I tried to hold on the button, and, you try to press it a whole bunch, but I just couldn't turn it off. Well, I was like, whatever, what does it matter? So I throw the phone in the box, tape it up, and I was like, the battery would probably die, by the time it gets there, because they had wanted the phone off and cleared. Well, I can't clear anything if I can't see anything. So I throw the phone in the box, I throw it on my dresser by my bed, and I go to sleep. Well, the next morning, my alarm goes off on my new phone and my old phone that's in the damn box. So I turn the alarm off on the new phone, and as tempted as you are to roll back over and snooze for 5 minutes, that stupid cell phone in the damn box was still going off. And I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to rip that box back open. In order to do so, I'd have to get my lazy butt up out of bed anyhow. So I was like, well, I guess I just might as well get up. I can't snooze a phone that's in a damn box. So I thought it was amazing, the realization I had that the benefit of putting your alarm, whether it's your phone or an actual alarm clock, if people even know what alarm clocks are anymore, putting that somewhere outside of arm's reach. Okay? Putting it in the bathroom or putting it on the other side of the bedroom or something like that. Your spouse might get pissed off at you. So make sure they know what you're doing. But it showed me that there is an immense value in that. So I was like, I need to get on freaking Craigslist or eBay or something and buy an old alarm clock that actually isn't a cell phone, and probably set that sucker and put it across the room, because that'll motivate me to get my butt up out of bed. So that's the idea of self-sabotaging. So by putting my alarm clock outside of arm's reach, I can't snooze the thing and fall back asleep. So that's what we're looking to do. Is what are the things when we're fired up and excited to do life? What are the things that we want to have done? Then, when we're our lazy selves and we don't do it, what allows us that excuse? Okay? The excuse to sleep in is that I can reach my phone, hit snooze, and while I'm all still in bed. But if I have to get my butt up out of bed to go do that, I'm not as likely to get back in bed. So I have another thing that I do is every morning I have a podcast fired up and ready to go on my phone that I want to listen to. And I actually have a tasty drink that I like, an energy style drink, in the morning. So every morning I know when I wake up, I get to play on that podcast, and I get to have my drink. And that gets me up and moving, gets me excited for the day. My podcast is something that I get to learn something from that I can apply the rest of the day. And it's also something that I track in my checklist, my daily checklist, that are my kind of like my daily to-dos, the things that I know will make me a good life. And it's one of them. So I'm excited when I wake up. I get to listen to my podcast, to get my drink, and then as soon as the podcast is done, I get to get my first check mark for the day, my first positive step for the day, knowing I'm moving in the right direction. So I have all of that set up, okay? So my alarm is away from the bed. I have my podcast ready to go. I have a drink ready to go. And I know that I'm going to get my first check mark for the day. So that's what we want to do. So my lazy self would like to sleep in. But I set up all of these things now to help get my lazy self up out of bed. And it has made me adhere to things way better. And I'm really enjoying the way it feels to be productive and feel good and happy every day and feel like I'm moving forward in life rather than always rushing to catch up. Okay? So, think in your life, what can you do to self-sabotage your lazy self? Like that alarm clock example. So is there something like every day you kind of get home from work and you usually just kind of like eat some shit food that's just around the house you can microwave or whatever? Well, why not find a way to correct that? You can either stop on the way home at a grocery store, pick up like a rotisserie style chicken, which is pretty healthy. You can pick up like, like baked beans, mashed potatoes, some type of healthy carb that maybe you can just microwave and heat up, and you can heat that stuff up, which is a lot healthier than a frozen pizza or some shitty burger patties or stuff like that. So that wasn't targeted towards anybody. However, there's somebody going to listen to this who eats burger patties every night. That just came out. So sorry, I wasn't trying to single you out. But sabotaging yourself like in that way where, okay, instead of me just driving straight home and eating garbage around the house, number one, don't buy and put garbage in my house. Number two, stop by the grocery store. It's pretty quick. You can be in and out in 10 minutes. You can have something healthier. That's a good food item. So most grocery stores now actually cook food and sell it at the deli. That's a much healthier option than you going home and eating some frozen packaged bullshit. Okay? So things like that. Find ways that you can kind of work with yourself. You know you're lazy. You know you're not going to go home and cook a 5-course meal and, spend 40 minutes cooking and cleaning up stuff. You just want to heat shit up because you're tired. And you just want to be done with it. Well, then go to the grocery store and get some healthy stuff that you can just heat up. Okay? So work with yourself. Stop eating garbage and thinking that your options are either, garbage shit food or things that I cook that take me an hour that I don't want to do. There are things in the middle. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Okay? Find the stuff in the middle that lets you at least move forward. If it's all or nothing and you always pick nothing, you're going to get nothing. Pick the something in the middle. Okay? That's our goal. So, is there something that you felt guilty about? It's always something that's in the way when you want to accomplish your goals. But you don't want to accept it. And you're wishing things were different. Well, guess what? Things haven't changed yet. So you need to embrace it and work with it and make the change happen. Okay? So meet yourself where you are. Don't expect yourself to become better and things to become perfect before you start. Just meet yourself where you are. Work with yourself to get yourself started. Okay? You can still work to change things later that maybe you don't like. So the internal versus external motivation. Okay? Or developing what you would consider willpower to just do things. Okay? People don't just do things all the time. No one on the planet does. Everybody has to set themselves up for victory in those moments when you're weak. Okay? Every single person on the planet does it that way. So there are tons of guru books about CEOs who wear the same clothes every day, or I listened to a podcast yesterday about a business owner who just eats the same thing for lunch every day. He has it catered in. He never has to choose. He doesn't choose, just eats the same thing every day for lunch. He said, because it just goes in and I'm moving on. He said, I don't want to have to think about it. I don't want to waste decisions on it. I just eat the same thing every day. And that's something that he learns to work with himself. So he's a multi-freaking-millionaire, a guy who writes books about success. And how is he successful? Not by just doing things and expecting himself to be perfect. He works with himself. Okay? So we don't always see the high and mighty people doing that. But they do it all the time, and that's how they become successful. You don't have to be perfect to be successful. You just have to learn how to work with yourself. Okay? Learn how to set up parameters to your life that will allow you to be successful. Okay? Cool. So, that's the idea of what we want to get across in this podcast, is stop wanting things to be a certain way. Accept them for what they are and learn to work with yourself. Stop beating yourself up and start building yourself up. Cool. Okay. If you want any help, if you need any ideas to bounce off us, feel free to shoot us an email at brutaliron@gmail.com. So we're here and happy to help. I can recommend some books if I know any that might help your situation, okay? But reach out if you want to make a difference and you're struggling a little bit. We'll be happy to help you, okay? So if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Brutal Iron Gym. Also, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. So the more people we help, the happier the world will be. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you. So we want to know what you want to learn about, okay? And you can reach us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful. And thank you for listening.